All right, folks, before I go into the ugly day that was the SPY, the overall market, I got some hat tips to do. We had some nice ideas put forth in chat today. I'm just doing them in somewhat random order. FENC, there's, you can see the daily, very strong in a week tape, right? The idea put in chat was by Peter C. Back through 8 or over 8 right there. And it never looked back. You got in at 8, it didn't look back, and it went to, I think, 875-ish. Pretty cool play there. FREY, Nish in the chat room, gave the 1450 break idea. You can see the early high here was 1450, broke 1450, and went nicely up to almost 16 bucks. Really nice call there. An early trade by Nick C on Sava. I'll go to 2-minute candles to show you this. I already made a video of these, but I'll do it again in the wrap up or in the highlight. Let me try that one more time in the watch this video for tomorrow. SAVA, there's the opening candle. It pushed through 39 and topped out at 39.32. And then yesterday's high, not far above that at 39.73. We call that stacked catalyst, whole number inflection point back through 39, kind of a second mouse idea through 39. Then you've got 1, 2 catalysts above, and they both played out. It knocked them down like dominoes. From the 39 break, went to 41.23 in about 3 minutes. That's what you want as a day trader. Rolled over, we don't care. We were looking for the trade, right? Nice call by Nick C. And then even that crazy HKD, go to 5-minute candles. Kona gave the idea back through 80. I actually liked it over the high of day because I had it on bounce watch, right? And it topped out at 84.50-ish, close to that. But Kona gave, I guess, the idea basically trying to get through the whole number with the high of day still above. Usually when the high of day is four bucks above a whole number break, we would say that's not close enough. But the way HKD moves, it was close enough, right? Went pretty quickly to $104.59 from the 80 break. I would argue, though, if you're trading HKD, one, I already said this, you got to take it small. And two, I would argue your stop was probably below this trigger candle, so at least $4. I put $5 on the highlight page, $5 a risk, which isn't uncommon for HKD, but it didn't matter, just absolutely ripped. So it was kind of another neat call. I gave a few pullback play, buy zone plays too that worked. One that comes to mind is FREY. I think I mentioned the first fives buy zone there, which it went right down, right into the fives buy zone to 1482. So you could have played the 15 flush, right? Sitting in the 1480s. And even that was a nice play. But obviously the better play was through the early high of day break. Again, put out by Nish in the chat room. So there's some highlights from the day. And I already said I don't like trading FOMC days, but I had a really nice day. I even took a couple of trades after the FOMC announcement, which I almost never do. Now let's go back and look at this SPY if you weren't there today and look what happened. So this was coming into FOMC, did this ugly flush. Then, usually you get a nice reversal after the first move, and it looked like, oh man, maybe we're not going to get it because it was slapped right back down after the first mini bounce. But then guess what? All the way back through the high of day. So anyone who shorted ended up covering, and then it goes back to the low of day. So that was squinky action even for post FOMC, right? You had one move, then another move, and then the first move continued. So I always say you never know what's going to happen after FOMC. I hate trying to trade it, but we did end up going out at the lows for the day. Not sure what the Dow was down. Maybe I can now already close that window. But anyway, kind of an ugly day. I think Dow was probably down more than 500 points. I'm going to try to glance and see if I can figure it out. Yeah, looks like it was down 522. So, and the only reason I focus on the Dow is I go back to when I used to work for a living, and you try to find a TV and just glance and see what the Dow is doing, right? So it's kind of my mom and pop gauge. So people say, oh, wow, the Dow is down to 5. Anyway, long story short, I don't have a big watch list for tomorrow. FREY, talked about the trades in it today. It was one of the stronger stocks out there, so I'm going to put it back on watch, but it is a little extended. SOBR actually broke yesterday's high at one point before coming back down. But you could argue maybe the market brought it back down, so that one goes on watch. SLNG, closing in about the middle of the range, but had a huge move, so we're going to watch that one. Kind of a sleeper pick here. Stitch Fix, SFIX, had big volume today. I believe they had earnings yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. but it did go from 440 to 538. Percentage-wise, that's a huge move. Gave some of it back, but the market was weak. So I'm going to watch that for a follow-through day tomorrow. AMPX was on watch today, gap down, sold off, but ended up, closing fairly strong. So I want to keep my eyes on that one. I'll show you 5-minute candles. It had this late day push right up into that whole $10. So $10 might be a factor tomorrow. Maybe we set up below that, we get the 10 break, and then we know today's high was 1039. I'll just round that up to 1040. So 10 might be a factor tomorrow. We'll see if it sets up. YOSH had a nice pop today on I think a stake reported, and I think the stake was like 65%. And ever since the IPO, this thing has just been beaten senseless. So kind of one of the more interesting ones to me tomorrow. You can see the late day pop in it on volume. CPTN. I always have trouble typing that one. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can kind of get a better view. Big volume today, but closing well off its highs. They had a headline. They had NVIDIA in the headline too, I think. So that's probably what popped it. Closing well off the highs though, but I'm going to put it on a chart. Couple more. RUM, which is Rumble. Now you got 2 red days in a row. I pointed this out when it got below 12 today as a potential shape play down here. But I didn't give an entry and stop or anything. But, you kind of had the shape. And it did. If you got it below 12, you got a nice bounce all the way up over 1280 at one point. Anyway, we've got the 2 red days. Bounced off support today. So that goes on Bounce Watch tomorrow. And then that other sleeper pick reminds me a little bit of YOSH in that since the IPO, can't even catch a bid. Had nice news, at least sounded like nice news this day, but still went out at the lows and has been bleeding lower ever since. It's just one of those, I'm looking for some kind of snapback bounce, but only with a proper intraday setup. That is it. That's my short list today. We're kind of at a spot where the market got ugly. And so over the next week, to me, the way I look at it is we're going to be building a new watch list as leaders emerge, right? And then we'll have setups forming. But today, post FOMC is kind of a weird day and there's not much to watch. That doesn't bother me at all. We'll find plenty of stocks that will give setups going forward and look at it like this. We're just going to start building our new list of market leaders and stocks that have had news, in-play stocks, if you will. And there will be some that will emerge, and then we will trade them the way we teach. All right, I'm done babbling. See you guys in the chat room in the morning.